So if you have a question, we have a raised hand option at the bottom of the screen. Okay, I'm not sure who was quite first between Dave and Mandy. Dave, you appear above Mandy in my list, so you're very welcome to go first.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? I'm
Yeah,
unmuted.
you're fine, thank
Yeah,
you.
so I was just wondering if you talk briefly about the difference in approaching meditation on a retreat as opposed to a daily practice, where you might meditate for half an hour or an hour, whereas on retreat you'll be in sort of meditation back to back sometimes, and how you sustain the kind of that focus.
Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah. Ideally, the meditation shouldn't be any different. I said ideally and shouldn't. So dealing in fantasy worlds here. But ideally, you meditate when you come on retreat, you meditate in exactly the same way. Now, of course, what we consider to be the right way of meditation is an ever evolving thing. It's not like you learn how to do it once and that's it. You do it, like learning any musical instrument or a language or anything else. There are levels and levels and levels and levels. So it's always in a state of being refined. The fundamental premise, though, is that truth is contained in this moment. It's the only place it could ever be, and that we ignore it. Human beings generally ignore it. So the fundamental premise is stop ignoring it. Be mindful, clearly comprehend experiences, and then as your practice matures, you're able to be mindful and clearly comprehending of the components that go to make up an experience. And that recognition of what components are actually going to create existence in this moment become ever clearer and ever more subtle and ever clearer. So the purpose of coming on retreat is simply that you're given the best supporting conditions that you could possibly find for that endeavor. A completely artificial environment that you could not recreate at home if you tried. Well, if you did try, you'd end up being in a monastery because it's really the only way to do it. So the objective of coming on retreat is to practice as you would normally practice and spend a weekend or a week engaged in that practice, and it is increasing your chances of finding something new or developing the practice so it's more subtle. But of course, the moment you come off retreat, you change all the conditions again. You can't possibly replicate the conditions that you met with midway on your retreat, because you know how it works on retreat. You spend 2 days working your way into the retreat. You spend 2 days doing some real good meditative work, and then you spend 2 days planning your adventures for after the retreat. So midway in the week, you're in prime meditative focus. You can't possibly replicate that back out in the world. There is going to be a drop-off when you go back out into the world. So you learn all kinds of things when you come on retreat about being on retreat. So you learn over time with successive retreats, you learn not to raise expectations, to enter into the week practicing as you would normally practice at home. You recognize that the first couple of days can be quite tangly and getting free of the world and thoughts about the world, and then you settle into a couple of days where everything's start seeing, maybe the envelope is pushed a little bit and you start seeing things you hadn't seen before, and then there's a couple of days you realize that the thoughts about the outside world are going to intrude again, and you're gearing up to go back out into the world. And then from experience that when you come off retreat, you cannot replicate the conditions. Therefore, there's this drop off back into a relative level of unskillfulness compared to the heights you reached in the middle of the retreat. It's all about conditions, changing conditions. So my advice would be to anyone to repeat something that Jackie, who co-founded the center, said, a week on retreat, the amount of meditation you do is worth a year's meditation at home. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think that's a very realistic estimation. Because, as you said, Dave, that you have 1 hour hot, coming after the previous hour, and you discover that no 2 hours of meditation are ever the same. You discover something else. For instance, you might discover that you had this impression at the end of the previous meditation that meditation had gone really, really well, because right at the very end of that meditation you got concentrated, and then you start the next meditation with the expectation that level of calm and concentration will just continue, and it doesn't, and then you get frustrated, and then you start messing with the practice, and it all gets very tense and very, very quickly, and you have to learn how to untangle yourself from that and then reapply yourself, not taking evidence from the last meditation into the new meditation. This is all part of the learning process. This is why it's a lifetime work. You can't just sort of, we all do it naively. We all go into our first week's retreat thinking, right, I'll crack it. 6 days, I'll be a stream winner or whatever. And it just isn't like that. So, Dave, is this the kind of thing you wanted me to talk about? Is this?
Yeah, no, that is it. I just sometimes think, sometimes it can work either way. Like sometimes in your daily practice, you think it's kind of making progress or whatever. And then you come on a retreat and it's like, horrible. And then sometimes you can be on retreat thinking, oh, I've kind of had quite a good retreat. And then you go back to your daily practice and it's like, and I know that's not allowed to, you're not supposed to say that.
Oh, we're going to ban the P word, the progress word.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I mean.
Craving for becoming. Yeah, these are the things that you can only, it's only serious, intensive practice which are going to reveal these things to you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just, what I said a couple of weeks ago, we're just spiritual dilettantes. Yeah. I said that in a strange way, but you know what I mean. We're just spiritual tourists. We're just playing with it. If you really want to do something about the problem of craving and ignorance, then you have to be in depth with it. You have to be. I shouldn't say this so publicly, but I do sometimes get a little bit hysterical when I hear of teachers, specifically non-dual teachers, whatever they are, telling students or telling somebody when they turn up to a meeting that they're already enlightened. Because I know for a fact the trials and tribulations and the hardships that meditators go through in order to reach the wisdom that sets them free from suffering. And so for anyone to say, well, all you have to do is just turn up and I'll tell you you're already enlightened, and that's all you need to do. What a load of baloney.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's really, really hard. But it's the most worthwhile thing. It's the thing that's really going to transform your life. So yeah, don't be a dilettante about it. A dilettante. Pick it up with all due seriousness and intent, and accept some guidance. Come on retreat and accept some guidance, and you learn where that lovely balance really is. And then once you've understood what the balance is, once you've understood that you don't have to chase anything, you don't have to have an agenda when you meditate, other than just to be interested in the next experience, whatever that next experience is. Once you've realized that, properly understood it experientially, then the practice starts to flow beautifully. So.
Good. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dave. Mandy, I think you're next.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Paul. Yes, you were telling about the 3 types of craving just before the meditation. And during this meditation, I noticed I do something like when I notice I'm tensing up, maybe clenching my jaws on a specific thought, or frowning on my thinking when I'm clinging on to my thinking, or even was a little bit in my neck. or the temperature that rises. But then if I'm not craving for pleasurable outcomes, what do I do with this noticing? So now I used to try to just, oh, I notice the tensing, specific for tensing, let go of it, and I continue. So I do move, I do change.
What do you mean by letting go?
Yeah, it almost goes automatically. So I notice the tensing in my jaws, or the clenching of my jaws, and I almost automatically then I notice this and I let go of it.
So what do you mean by let go?
Of the tension. So
What do you mean? Yeah, I know what of what, but what do you mean by letting go?
The muscles then relax more.
But you're saying that this is really an automatic thing, that
almost. I'm conscious of that I'm doing something there.
Or you're conscious that something is happening.
I wonder if
it's a subtle distinction, but
it is. But I wonder if I do think I stir it at times. You know, becoming aware of something. I think, oh no, I should relax it a bit more, my shoulders instead of straight. Or oh, I'm frowning. Oh yeah, now this is because of a thought. Just let go of it.
The important thing is the recognition of the condition that gave rise to it. So if you're saying there is a tendency to tense up or to frown, or there is some kind of response to certain stimuli, perhaps it might be thinking, a certain kind of thought or a memory. I had a memory arise, for some reason, this memory arose of me doing something incredibly embarrassing when I was in India. I'm not even going to tell you what it was. It was so embarrassing. And I just cringed in the middle of the shrine room. I was just going, oh, I didn't actually blurt out anything, but I was like, oh, because there was a condition, a painful resultant, a memory and a painful feeling and a cringy response, and everything went like that. But at no stage did I feel the point is that was an experience. It had components. I was observing the components, and in no way, shape, or form did I feel like I had to get rid of anything or change anything. The cringe doesn't last. It's there and then it's gone. The tension doesn't last. It's there, then it goes. The frown doesn't last. It's there, then it goes. It's understanding the condition upon which that experience came about. It's seeing it, and then it's letting it go. Now, the thing about craving for pleasure is you have an agenda. Because you have an agenda, it means when something that doesn't fit your ideal for meditation occurs, so if you're craving for pleasure and something unpleasant happens, you make a comparison. And you make a comparison between what is actually happening and what you want it to be happening. So you're measuring how close you are to realizing what it is you want from the meditation. And I want pleasure. So how close am I to experiencing pleasure? I'm very far away from experiencing pleasure because this is tense and this is painful. This is not according to my agenda. So I am far away from where I want to be. Boo-hoo. Woe is me. And the meditation is a burden. But if you have no thought at all that meditation should provide me with pleasant feelings, and you're just dealing with that tension or that painful memory or that frowning or that cringe, whatever it happens to be, and you're not comparing it to anything, you're not measuring it in regard to anything, then it is just an experience that occurs, tells you what it is, there's mindfulness and clear comprehension, and then it falls away. So it doesn't matter if you're tense. It doesn't matter because being tense is not relative to anything else. It's just a state that is arising now and ceases now. Yeah. So that's why craving for pleasure in meditation is so detrimental. So if it's the case that you're saying, well, I just watch things and sometimes, yeah, there's tightness in my jaw or there's tension or there's frowning, whatever that might be. What do I do with it? What's the answer? Mandy, what's the answer?
Tricky question. Yeah, I think it's about first observing And I then think if it's not about achieving something, I can let go of it to settle myself again to in this most receiving like posture state of mind, you know, to
now compare that to if you did indeed have an agenda that meditation should be a pleasant experience. If you experienced displeasure or you experience something uncomfortable, are you able to let it go? If you've got an agenda, if you're saying that meditation should be pleasant and this isn't pleasant.
Yeah, I reckon then you get trapped in something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what traps you.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that sorted out, Mandy.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's the same as the posture, isn't it? That sometimes you feel like you're sinking and in, or you bowing, and then you feel, oh no, I should sit up straight again. So you intervene with something, but that's because of another reason than to crave for.
Yes, we have to make that distinction. Like if the meditation teacher is saying don't move in meditation, it's because of our tendency to always move when we experience discomfort. That movement, that physical movement, must have its mental movement, the mental desire to get away from that discomfort. And so neither the mind nor the body can actually relax because you're just constantly moving in the end. That's very different from a state where, say, you've slumped and gone to sleep, or, you know, you're just in dreamland a little bit and you've just gone like this, and then you discover yourself in this somewhat peculiar posture, and then you say, well, the teacher said don't move, so I guess I'm going to be like this for the next 3/4 of an hour. Oh great, I mean there's no danger that I'm going to do myself any harm. So what do? Of course you move yourself back up. So it's a subtle distinction, but at the same time we have to use our common sense, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
It's okay, really, what we're saying is it's okay to move after you have fully acknowledged any craving that might be there, you fully acknowledge any dissatisfaction with what you're experiencing. Because if I'm like this, I'm definitely experiencing some form of dissatisfaction with life at that moment, undoubtedly. So the most important thing is mindfulness and clear comprehension. If we're mindful and clearly comprehending what's going on, then there is, you know, maybe the opportunity to adjust something, but it's not adjusting things blindly. Okay.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Hilda, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
Very good, thanks. All right, so my question is about sometimes when I meet people who seem interested in meditation, I get tempted to like go in depth or like explain how we do our meditation, you know, here, like how the technique works, but I'm never quite sure like how much I should do that, because I'm not a meditation teacher. I mean, you know, like breathing exercises and people focusing on the breath, that kind of stuff is already out there. But does that question make sense? Like, where does it stray from being just like, okay, I'm just kind of explaining what we do, and when does it go into, you know,
when the other person starts asking for your guidance? Like if you're literally just explaining the technique, you're not guiding them. But right. If they say yes, but what I find is that I get, I get very sleepy or something, and you say, oh, what you could do is this, that then you've crossed the boundary.
Yeah.
I think I can understand reticence. Believe me, I can understand reticence about trying to describe any of this, but it's a bit late for me now. But I can understand reticence on anyone else's behalf. You don't have to feel pressured to explain things to people, beyond what you're comfortable with. I think for any serious practitioner, the evidence of the worth and the benefit of the training comes from their subsequent behavior, you know, and the natural changes that occur to somebody when they see craving and suffering more and more in their own experience and let go of it. And you know, if people go beyond, you know, if they start to ask more personal questions or seeking guidance, just show them our YouTube channel, show them our website, encourage them to watch, you know, get in touch, have a chat with me. And that way you avoid that difficult dilemma. So yeah, I'd say ultimately point them in our direction. If they keep asking, it means they're interested, doesn't it? I know people who have known me from before I came in here, and they have never asked me anything about it in over 20 years. I'm like, okay, I guess they're not interested. Somebody else, you meet them for the first time and they're all ears. So if they got a genuine interest, then point them in our direction, I'd say.
Yeah, because I find, I mean, it is tempting sometimes as well to just like talk about meditation and how important it is to me, you know, but maybe I shouldn't go too in depth in like describing how I experience it. But sometimes, I don't know.
Well, it's you know, it's utterly transformative. But that's what I mean about, like, maybe you have to let the results speak for themselves, because otherwise it becomes proselytizing very, very quickly, and it becomes a bit preachy very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And especially for people who aren't interested. If somebody's genuinely interested, then you tend to have a sort of genuinely interesting chat, and it's probably something that they've looked at before anyway. Maybe not what we, like you were saying before, they've probably done some breath work and they've done Wim Hof and they've done this and that. And there's a genuine interest in these kinds of things. And obviously we're not quite doing that. That's not what we were doing, but it can be an entry point. So I would say, yeah, just be wary of getting preachy, because nobody likes that. Is that okay, Hilda? Does that cover it, do you think?
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you.
Great. All right, Lucy, I think you're next.
Cool. I don't think I've ever noted shape and color, apart from in a really blatant, like, yeah, of course I'm aware of, right, I've experienced shape and color and do all the time. Apart from in that way, I think it's the sense I find most difficult to, I don't think I've ever seen it arise and pass away. Whereas the others, I can get to a stage of at some point seeing some kind of, there it is, and now it's not there. I was wondering if you could give any tips about how to experience that. Like, I've wondered, do I just try staring at something for a long time? Will I learn anything from that? Or
okay, I have to agree that I found this sense, seeing shape and color, I found that to be the most tricky in terms of seeing transience. A couple of things help for me. Well, firstly, seeing transience in all the other senses helped tremendously. So, like with hearing, I think hearing is probably one of the easier senses to see transience. And what helped for me was the fact that seeing the serial arising and passing away of sounds, that there were these moments of information, little packets of information arising and passing away in series. And so seeing it meditatively, seeing it in hearing, helped me understand the basic nature of information coming in through the senses, that it does so in a stream. There is a stream of sensory information, which is entirely ephemeral, arising and passing away. And so when it came to seeing shape and color, and the tendency of the mind to conceptualize what it sees so instantly, and creating this sense of unchangingness and permanency. In the end, what I did was utilize the idea of light coming into the sensitive matter of the eye, and therefore changing the way I perceived shape and color, not as separate, distinct objects, but as waves of light. And once I saw it as waves of light, it was like, oh, obviously there's a stream of light. There is a stream of information coming through the seeing sense, the sensory field of seeing. And so that was a huge adaptation, because that helps to see that there aren't really discrete objects. Objects are more like waves. So I'm going a bit further than the remit of the question. So, but I would say, in terms of the sense of I, EYE, see if you can think about it in terms of steady stream of information rather than discrete objects. Does that help, Lucy?
Does. I think my internet dropped out for a few seconds, but I think I'm okay. Do you get to the point then of seeing, kind of, say you're just staring at one object and nothing obvious changes, the lighting or you don't blink or anything for 5 seconds, say, do you get to the point of seeing instances of shape and color arise and fall whilst looking at seemingly the same thing?
I understand where you're coming from. I want to challenge it a little bit by saying the things you were aware of this morning, the shapes, the colors, are you aware of them now?
No.
No. The shapes and colors from yesterday, are you aware of them now?
No.
Last week?
No.
Last year?
No.
when you were a little,
no.
little person. So they must be. They cannot be permanent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in terms of seeing it moment to moment, I think the problem is the problem of conceptualizing discrete objects. And I think, were you instead to think of light and look at what's going on in terms of flows of information coming in through the eyeball, rather than the objects out there, I think that you could start. It is a more subtle business than hearing. But if you take the same fundamental idea that it's the waves of information, streams of information, rather than discrete separate objects, because when it comes to hearing, we can make the distinction between the succession of sounds that we hear and the idea, the concept, the perception of that's a lorry, right? So if we think only in terms of that's a lorry, we have a distinct separate object which has an unchangingness to it. But when we are able to see that actually what we're experiencing is sound and hearing, which is necessarily arising and passing away moment by moment, we're able to necessarily detach the perception from the sound and see that, yes, the perception gives the sense of it being an unchanging separate reality, but in fact it isn't. It is a whole succession of distinct momentary events which are being weaved together to give the impression of being something of substance. So what we have to do, we have to be really clear about separating the conventional conceptualizing of the world from what is actually happening moment to moment. And it is, I agree, it is most difficult with seeing, because we tend to we perceive shape and color as being unchanging, but it's not. It's just a whole succession of events arising and passing away. Food for thought. Food for thought with that, Lucy.
Yeah.
Maybe check this video back when we put it up on YouTube or whatever, and give it another go.
Yeah.
You will get there. You will get there. But at the moment, it's still, it's still, the insight is still coarse. It's not subtle enough to be able to just watch and observe that that's actually what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sally, you're up next.
Hello. Completely different to what everybody else was thinking about, but I was just interested in your sort of experiences of talking to meditators, and what the most common hindrance it was that you found that people might be clinging on to, whether there's like a pattern that you come across that's more so than
I would say, rather than a particular hindrance standing out for everyone, it's what underlies all the hindrances, which is self-concern. So with every meditator, without fail, what gets in the way is self-concern. You think about it. When is meditation really hard? And when does it seem to flow really easily? What's the difference?
yeah.
It's like self-concern. When it's flowing, when you're just noting things and don't have a care in the world, there's no self-concern.
Mm.
When you're really dissatisfied with life, and it's painful and it's difficult, you think, oh, how do I get out of this? I don't want to do this. This is awful. Self-concern is uppermost. So without fail, for every single meditator, it is self-concern which is the problem. Is that what you wanted to hear? Probably not.
No, probably not. But it's going to make me think a bit more. Definitely.
Yeah,
So,
you think about the times when you're flowing with life. Who isn't there? When we're deeply in a movie and you're really enjoying the movie, or you're deeply into a piece of music and you're totally concentrated on that piece of music, who's not there?
yeah.
And everything's fine.
Yeah, it's true.
And then the moment self-concern or self-consciousness rears its head, there's this sense of division. And suddenly life is unsatisfactory, and suddenly all the burdens and the problems are there. So in a way, your question is absolutely in line with everything we've been talking about so far.
Yeah.
Or was there something else behind the question?
No, I guess I was trying to get my head around sort of why certain things come up more than others, I suppose, but maybe that's more to do with your daily practice and the fact that your mindfulness is not as good, maybe. And
it's undoubtedly the case that each individual meditator will have their favorite hindrance. That's absolutely the case.
That's sort of what I was getting at, really.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, do you see like things really commonly that people really struggle with?
Oh, all the way down the line. All the way down the line. So we have different character types in the Buddha's teaching, but essentially they boil down to three. They're either somebody who is greedy for pleasure, or they have aversion to pain, or they're confused. And their tendencies will cause them. So for the greedy-minded person, sensuality will be a big factor in their path. And they will always be trying to chase pleasure from the most gross to the most subtle. And all the way down throughout the training, those will be, it's the greedy desire for, which will be getting in the way. And it will manifest in different ways, but essentially that's what it'll do. On the other hand, you have what we call the hate type, for whom getting rid of the problem is always uppermost. So So they will always be trying to cut away. They'll experience aversion to many things because they're just trying to be cut away, get away from the perceived problem. And so that will come all the way, that conditioning will come all the way down with them. And so it is really helpful to know whether you tend to be the greedy, faithful type or the intelligent, hate type. And people generally fall into those two categories, or they fall into the category of being a confused type, where they don't know what to think, they don't know what they should believe, or that they tend to agree with whoever happens to be talking at the time, sort of thing, because they don't really know, they don't have a firm idea of things for themselves. So so a certain amount of wise reflection and working out what the tendencies that do come up in meditation tend to be, and then you can usually, well, I have to be careful what I say, because what tends to happen is that the greedy type tends to think that they're a hate type, and that what they need to do in order to resolve the problem is to just experience more pleasure in their life. And the hate type thinks they're a greedy type and thinks that actually discipline and renunciation is the way for them to go. So what we tend to do is, in order to keep the tendency going, we tend to assume that we're the other sort. So I think talking to a teacher can help in that regard, just to iron out which category.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Great. David Servo.
Yeah, hello. By the way, I just wanted to say thank you for pointing out the 3 kinds of craving prior to the meditation. That was very timely and it helped me out a lot during the meditation.
Great.
So I appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about my experience with meditating today. As I was meditating, I was using the tick-tock of the clock nearby as the object of meditation. And I was able to note the arising of the phenomenon. However, I couldn't quite see whenever the phenomenon passed away within my experience. And I could hear the tick and the talk, but I couldn't quite see whenever the sound ended. And it was just this continual re-arising of that experience. And it was with any experience like the clock noise as well. I just couldn't see any kind of ending. Excellent. So I couldn't pin it down. My question is, what pointers do you have that can help a meditator seeing the passing away of phenomena?
Keep going. Just keep noting. Keep watching. Keep looking. There is a progress of insight. The insight becomes more subtle as time goes on. You don't have to chase it. It will come in its own good time. So what we tend to do when we get clear of hindrances and we're looking and noting properly, the first thing we become aware of is the serial arising of phenomena. And that's where you're at. That's what you're looking at. And that's great. That's brilliant. As the insight becomes more subtle, the meditator starts to perceive that in order for a subsequent moment, a subsequent talk to occur after the tick must first have ceased. So at the moment, it's like a serial arising. There's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this, and this. And then as the perception becomes more subtle, there's the recognition that, oh, wait a minute, for this to be, this must have already ceased. So it ceases, then and then it ceases, and then it ceases. So looking at it more subtly, and you're seeing that prior to every origination, there's a cessation, and that the subsequent moment could not occur without the ceasing of the prior moment. Okay. And then later on in the practice, all you can see is a serial dissolution of phenomena. So the mind is alighting on the fact that everything is ending. That's quite an interesting, they're all interesting phases of the practice. But then you reach a point where you wish you could stop seeing the dissolution of things. So at the moment you're wanting to experience the passing away of things. Be careful what you wish for. But in the end, you will see it. So all you need to do, and this is where the faith comes in, is just have the confidence you're doing it correctly. Just you just took the sound of the tick-tock of a clock as your object of contemplation, and you noticed the transient nature of the tick and the tock. Sounds obvious, but when you're actually looking at it, it's fascinating. And at the moment, you're seeing the serial arising of phenomena. That's fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's great.
Okay, yeah, then I'm on the right track, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Any more for any more? Any other questions at all? Okay. Well, I've been thinking about whether we should augment what we do with study of suttas. I don't know how people would feel about that. The problem is if we have too long a sutta, then it's going to take more than one evening to go through it, and we only meet online once every 2 weeks. So I'm just putting it out there as an idea, because I know that some people looking at the original teachings is extremely important to them. Perhaps it gives them a sense of being anchored in something traditional and what have you. If that's something you'd like to do, and you can think of a format, the only way I can think of doing it is by doing it either I do it here with you and we just concentrate on very short suttas, or I galvanize myself to do like another YouTube series, and I could do a longer form sutta on the YouTube series, which would be more me doing commentary, and then people can leave comments and ask questions. Wonder what you think. Sarah, you have an observation about that?
Yeah, I think it's a really nice idea to have a contrasting format of that. I just had the idea, as you said the other day, there are so many short suttas. I think everyone here is familiar with the Facebook group, that could be, posted. We're going to do this one next Monday. Have a read through so that people join in would have a time to read it through, and then it might be doable.
We could send out an email in advance. Do it that way, because not everyone looks at the Facebook. But yeah, point taken. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Mark. Hello.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, I was just to say, I think it's a great idea. I'd be really up for for taking part in that. And I guess I've been on a Pali Canon class at Orkana, and I found it really, really useful for someone to just to kind of go through a sutta and explain what is being said and what is meant, and the context of the kind of what the situation at the time, because there are, or so it seems to me, different messages being given by the Buddha to different people at different times, and sometimes they have context as to a situation that was actually happening at that time. But and I guess like a summary of what it's about, and then I'm sure there'll be loads of questions from people who are like, well, what is meant by this particular section of the sutta?
Yes, if it was announced in advance, it would force people to study for it. I think that's a really important aspect. That this is something Alan used to do. He would insist that people would write a synopsis. So we would do we'd go through a sutta in a Dhamma talk with Alan, and he would insist that you write a synopsis, and that really forced you and focused your mind to actually understand what the sutta was really about, because Alan was going to ask you to read out the synopsis, and God, that was terrifying. But it worked. It did the job, because it forced that focusing. And generally, what I found was that, like, you read it through once, and then you go back paragraph by paragraph, and you write down what your understanding of that paragraph is, and then the next paragraph, then the next paragraph. Then you go back and you read it all again, And by that time, you've got an idea of a better, far deeper, better idea of what the sutta is about. And if we keep them short, then it isn't all going to be too much work for you. And we can't just rip into, fruits of recluseship, or stuff from the Digha Nikaya. We'll have to take some, make some clever choices. Ellen, hello, good evening. You wanted to say something about that?
Hi, yeah. You and the center are always very adaptable, and I certainly think this idea is worth pursuing. One idea comes to mind in this discussion. Use the phrase "kill two birds with one stone." The fact that you have the idea of doing a commentary on your own that you could record and post, that serves the broader audience, of course, but in terms of having it form into this group, the homework could be go watch the recording I just made. And then in this session, it could be a Q&A based on the recording that you had done ahead of time. So,
okay, just doubling my workload in
No, well, it's your point about the amount of, to do it.
Yeah, but we could see, because
time required.
Ellen, we record these and they go.
Oh, that's true too.
Anyways,
yep.
I think it's going to be one or the other. But yep. I mean, I also have it in mind at some point to do a commentary on Mahasi Sayadaw's Progressive Insight, because I found that so unbelievably helpful when I was in training. But it does require very sensitive handling, so I think maybe so I will get to it eventually. Hilda, you have an observation?
Yeah, I think it's invaluable doing it live with you. Just knowing myself with YouTube videos, there's so many YouTube videos, but it's not the same thing watching a video and then going away thinking. It's just so valuable being able to speak to you and ask questions. So I think that would be my preferred format.
Okay, yeah, point taken. I think the interaction is priceless. Now, I think the best kind of interaction would be, doing Pali Canon classes physically located at the center. But one is those won't get recorded. These will get recorded, and therefore they will be available for wider sort of dissemination. And of course, doing it this way does allow for interaction. So, okay. So generally speaking, I've got a few chats and a few thumbs up and things. So I'm generally taking it that people think it's a good idea. So, all right. Yeah, thumbs up, fist pumps of all varieties. That's the way. Okay. All right. All right. So I will think about that. I will. And it doesn't have to be every week. We can still have a Q&A format. We can change it around. Okay, so we're getting okay signs, thumbs up, fist pumps, and the rest. Okay. Has anyone got any more questions for this evening? Are we happy? Content? Had your fill? No, Giuseppe's asking for Mahasi Sayadaw. I think that is going to have, because although it's a very short, it appears to be a short treatise, to get into it in the correct amount of commentary and subtlety of it would require, an ongoing series, I think. Oh God, I'm just creating more work for myself, aren't I? Oh, Sally, maybe alternate sessions. Yeah, because if we can do a sutta in one session, then that means that we've got it all complete. So we'd only have like an hour or so. So I think and once you start getting into a conversation with somebody about a particular part of the passage, that time can just be eaten up completely. So it does require a certain amount of control. But yeah. Lucy, sutta readings during the Monday session plus explanation interpretation would be helpful. Yeah, it would be with. So you do the work Lucy, would give you the sutta, tell you which sutta it is going to be in advance. Also, I can see a problem with translations as well. There's a lot of different translators. They are not all as good as one another. So that will be an issue. So we'll have to agree upon the translator, which translation we're going for as well. But yeah, there will be explanation and interpretation, but you will be asked to do the work. You will be asked to study the sutta beforehand. I'm not sure I'll go as far as asking for synopsis, but Lucy, you did a live stream on the progress of insight a couple of years ago. It was amazing. Would always love more. Yes. Yes, I think Mahasi's progress of insight, the actual work itself, and it's freely available on Access to Insight. So it's fully distributed. So there's no copyright issue with it at all. So everyone can actually have it there and read along. And if I did it in small enough, so my idea was, literally to do like a half-hour video, and maybe I can augment what I do and have the actual text up with me in a little box or whatever, just to help the process, and just to go through it very, very steadily, not to feel like I've got to stop, I've got to cram information in, because it might very well be that a section takes longer than 1.5 hour video. So that, and then it gives people who aren't part of this the chance to ask questions, even if it's writing comments on the YouTube. I can still respond to those before I do the next video. So, I mean, I'd have to really commit to it. I don't really want to commit to it. I have to really commit to it. And then maybe do, have a particular evening where I just spend half an hour going through a little bit more of the text, put it up online, wait for people's comments and questions, and then I can answer those before I then, on the next video, before I then do a little bit more of the text. So that's my thinking. I'll get to it eventually. Give me another couple of years and I'll be there. All right, so we'll leave it there for this evening. If you have a short sutta that you would really like us to go through, then please do let me know. Email me, info@orkana.org.uk. Otherwise, I will think of one that I think would be worthwhile doing, and we'll take it from there. I'll sort, we'll find a way of letting people know. Sally, maybe try one and see how it plays out. Certainly, I think that's the way to go. Definitely. Okay. Right. Thank you for your questions. Thought we covered some excellent ground this evening. And so we'll be back together in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye.
Thank you.